The invitation arrived in the mail, simple and neat, with my sister's familiar handwriting. She wanted me at her baby shower. My first thought was caution. After everything that had happened, her gestures rarely came without an agenda. Still, I decided to attend. Family events had always been battlegrounds, but I had learned to navigate them quietly, observing more than reacting. And this time, I hope to do the same. The venue was decorated with soft pastels, balloons, and the cheerful buzz of friends and family. Guests mingled, laughter and chatter filling the air, and I felt a strange mix of nostalgia and unease. I tried to enjoy the atmosphere, keeping my reactions calm, polite, and measured. My sister greeted me warmly, her smile bright and practiced, and I allowed myself a small hope that perhaps this time she wanted only to share a moment, not to humiliate. But as the event progressed, the tension built subtly. Her friends chatted around me, congratulating her, and I noticed her eyes repeatedly glancing my way, calculating, sharp. Something was coming. I could feel it, a quiet ripple of anticipation, as if she was orchestrating a scene only she understood. I remembered the years of rivalry, of her small victories and cruel jokes, and I braced myself. I had survived her attempts to undermine me before, but this time I suspected the stakes were higher. Then it happened. Just as the cake was brought out and attention turned toward the guests of honor, my sister cleared her throat and smiled broadly. The words that followed froze me mid-breath, cutting through the chatter like a knife. She began speaking about my late husband. My stomach tightened, my chest felt hollow, and the air seemed to thicken around me. What I had feared, the betrayal, the humiliation, was about to unfold publicly, in front of everyone, under the guise of celebration. I caught the fleeting glance of my parents, their expressions unreadable, and realized that this had been a plan, a calculated move to shame, embarrass, and control the narrative. The room shifted, the air tense with anticipation, and I understood that how I responded would define not just the rest of this event, but my presence, my dignity, and my ability to reclaim control in a space where I had been made vulnerable. I did not speak. I did not react immediately. I let her words hang in the air, sharp and deliberate, and allowed myself a moment of clarity. This wasn't just about hurt feelings, it was about power, presence, and control. And this time, I would not let her dictate the story. I would respond, but on my terms, deliberately, calmly, and in a way that she could never undo. The words she spoke about my late husband echoed through the room, each syllable deliberately sharp, designed to humiliate and provoke. Guests glanced between us, sensing tension, but unsure of its origin. My parents' expressions were unreadable, their eyes flicking briefly toward me, but they did nothing. My sister's smile was wide, triumphant, the kind that said she had orchestrated the perfect scene. I felt the familiar surge of anger and hurt, but I didn't react outwardly. I had learned long ago that calm observation wielded more power than immediate confrontation. I watched her carefully, noting every flicker in her eyes, every small movement of her hands, the way she leaned toward her friends as if to draw them into the spectacle. She thought she had the room in her grasp, that she could humiliate me publicly and claim victory. But she didn't realize how prepared I had become for moments like this. I had endured years of manipulation, insults, and petty triumphs at my expense. I had learned the art of patience, of quiet strategy, and now, in the midst of her show, I was fully aware of the advantage I held. I began scanning the room, noticing the subtle reactions of the other guests. Some were confused, some sympathetic, and a few clearly uncomfortable. Their uncertainty revealed the cracks in her narrative. Her carefully constructed dominance over the room was not as solid as she believed. I realized that the power of her words relied not just on what she said, but on the assumptions of compliance from everyone present. That compliance could be withdrawn. I allowed the conversation to continue just long enough for her to feel the illusion of control. Then I spoke. Calmly, deliberately, my voice steady and measured. I addressed the room without accusing, without raising my voice, and without providing the drama she had sought. I reminded everyone, subtly yet unmistakably, of the love, respect, and dignity my late husband had earned in life, and of the boundaries she had crossed by dragging his memory into a public spectacle. Each word was chosen to assert presence, reclaim respect, and dismantle the false narrative she had tried to impose. The shift was immediate. Guests began to murmur among themselves, the sympathetic glances multiplying. My sister's confidence faltered as she realized that her attempt to control the room had failed. My parents exchanged brief, startled looks, perhaps recognizing the balance of power had shifted in that instant. I continued, maintaining my calm, letting the facts and the quiet authority of my voice speak louder than any outburst could. The air around us was charged, tension thick, but now no longer in her favor. She attempted a retort, a sharp remark meant to regain control, but it faltered, lost amid the undeniable strength of my presence. Every carefully constructed joke, every boastful gesture she had prepared, crumbled in the face of deliberate composure. I wasn't just defending my husband's memory, I was asserting my dignity, my right to exist in that space, and my refusal to allow manipulation to dictate my reality. By the end of the evening, the impact was clear. My sister's smirk had disappeared entirely, replaced with a hesitant, awkward tension. My parents looked at me in a new light, recognizing, perhaps belatedly, the authority I carried not through drama, but through calm, undeniable presence. The room had been her stage, but she had failed to control the narrative. I had reclaimed it silently, deliberately, and with precision. The lesson crystallized in that moment. Humiliation and manipulation only hold power when we allow them to. By observing, waiting, and responding on my terms, I had turned a public attempt at shame into a demonstration of strength, dignity, and self-possession. The echoes of her words no longer held the sting they once would have. Instead, they marked the moment when the balance shifted, when I reclaimed control over a space and a narrative that had long been contested. I left the room with calm authority, aware that the impact of my response would linger. The humiliation she had intended to inflict had been reversed, and my presence, quiet, deliberate, undeniable, stood as proof of resilience and power she could not diminish. The room fell silent, the weight of my words hanging in the air. My sister's triumphant smirk had vanished, replaced by unease and disbelief. My parents looked at me differently, their casual certainty shaken. I hadn't shouted or argued. I had reclaimed the narrative calmly, letting my presence and dignity speak louder than any drama she had tried to create. For the first time, I felt fully seen. The attempt to humiliate me publicly had failed, and in its place, I stood undeniable, composed, and respected. My husband's memory remained honored, and my own strength had been proven. The power of silence, observation, and deliberate action had turned humiliation into triumph. Stand strong when others try to humiliate or control you. Stay calm, act with dignity, and let your presence and actions speak louder than their words.